Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So, with good fashion, I've had a good think about the builds that I would like to approach initially, and these are the 5 top, I guess, ascendancies and build variants that come to mind when I think about what we could do in Path of Exile 2. Okay, so the first one that comes to mind is the Witch Infernalist, and in particular using the skill Incinerate to basically proc a channeling ability of fire. Now, the reason why I like this particular ascendancy, the particular points that stick out to me are Demonic Possession, which is Demon Form, Pyromantic Pact, but the biggest one is Bringer of Flame. Between that and Pyromantic Pact and Bringer of Flame, if you're doing a channeling skill, then basically my idea is as you channel, you would gain Infernal Flame. This would increase the amount of damage that you would be able to generate. And on top of that, you could also switch into Demonic Possession and then basically do a ton of channeling damage. The other thing is Bringer of Flame would then allow you to, while not being on low Infernal Flame, ignites the enemy and inflicts the thing called Magnitude. Now, the other thing is we've got Cast on Ignite as a result of that. That's being added to the game, so you could then have that proc Firestorm and everything else in between, so it could be really powerful. On top of that, I would probably try and build this with Chaos Inoculation. If they have something like Aegis Aurora, I would switch it to a totally ES-based build to make it super tanky. So basically have it I would have it channeling, auto-triggering every other skill around me, using obviously the trigger on Ignite, trigger on Shock, things like that. And then basically just have a total devastation chaos witch, make it super tanky on top of it. But that's my idea with the Witch Infernalist, and I'm actually super keen for Pyromantic Pack. I think it's a really cool for channeling skills. Now, the next one that's got my interest peaked is the Chronomancer. In particular, I'm going to suggest Chrono-Slam Sorceress. Now, hear me out, this is the reason why. So, basically, when I look at this, I look at like Time Snap and Time Freeze. In particular, Time Freeze, basically you could Time Freeze enemies and then just absolutely go to town on enemies for a certain period of time. You got reduced cooldowns as well. Now, that's not to say that you would have many cooldowns on your actual slam skills, but basically you could use any number of slam skills. And then what I would also stack that on is cold conversion. So basically if there's something like Hatred as a buff skill in the game, then basically convert all your damage to cold, synergize that with the witch points that will be around the tree for elemental, and then basically focus on going to the left side of the tree in the pathing tree to specialize in slam skills and or melee mace skills or something of that nature. This is just something that comes to mind just because it's a spellcaster by nature doesn't mean that you have to play it as a spellcaster. Okay, so the third ascendancy that sticks out to me is the Gemling Legionnaire, and the main point here, well, there's actually 2, is the integrated efficiency, which gives you 3 additional skill slots, which means that you could add a whole ton more of chain skills or auto trigger skills. But the Thermatological Infusion node is the one that sticks out to me the most as a defensive player. The reason being is things like Cloak of Flame still exist in Path of Exile 2, which basically allows you to convert physical damage taken to fire damage. So what this Thermatological Infusion does is then gives you overcap based on the gem sockets that you have in your gear. So basically you can achieve overcapping really, really quickly. Now, as far as quality, I'm not sure how that will affect skills, but yeah, from a defensive standpoint, you could basically do anything you wanted with this. Arguably, this would be not a bad melee setup character as well, because you could basically chain more skills together to proc more things. But ultimately, I think this is still going to be better played as like a super tanky crossbow build, one that you could potentially face tank enemies with. That's how it sort of sticks out to me, and so I'd probably play it like that at this stage because I like to play tanky characters. Okay, so the next one is actually the Warbringer, and that's an obvious one because I really like melee builds. But the node in the Warbringer, or the 2 nodes that stick out to me more so, is Warcaller's Bellow, which allows corpses in your presence to explode when you Warcry, dealing 25% of their life as physical damage, and the Great Wolf's Howl, which ignores Warcry cooldown. Now, the reason why this is really cool is because Seismic Cry actually does base damage now, and I don't believe it used to. Originally, it just allowed you a boon. So basically, the Warcry itself can do damage, which means if there's no cooldown on the Warcry, you can just keep popping the Warcry, damage the enemies around you, and explode everything around you. I'm going to make this build. Now, there was something like this in Path of Exile 1, but it wasn't very successful, and actually, this is exactly a build out of Diablo 2, which was the Singer Barbarian, which we're going to be able to most likely play in Path of Exile 2, and there most likely will be some kind of gearing or uniques or tree nodes that buff up Warcries further, and physical damage will likely scale with the Seismic Cry as well, and then you'll be able to chain other skills to it. So yeah, this is definitely something that I want to look at playing. Okay, so the final one that I'm actually going to play on the start of PoE 2, and this should be of no surprise for anyone who follows my channel, but it's going to be Resonating Shield Wall Titan. Now, the reason why is it just looks sick. So basically, I've already got a sequence of skills, which I'll put in the description below, but we're going to start with Seismic Cry, Shield Charge. Shield Charge will allow you to get into packs of enemies without taking damage. Then we'll hit Shield Wall to knock the ground up in front of us, and then hit Resonating Shield, which bashes your shield and blows the shield wall up. And then we'll have a weapon switch, which will go to Hammer of the Gods with a two-handed weapon setup, and then a tree setup for that, and then basically rinse and repeat. Now, that's a 5 sequence. We can get to a 9 sequence, or have some auras or buffs in there, as they're now called. But basically, I had a lot of time to think about this ahead of time, and Titan is perfect for this. So basically, 20% chance for slam skills. You use yourself to cause aftershocks, which is big damage with shields. Your hits are crushing blows, and 40% more damage against stunned enemies. So obviously we're going to stun enemies, and then on top of that, shield skills scale with armor on your shield, same as Shield Crush out of Path of Exile 1, which means your character gets incredibly tanky on a Titan class. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be playing, to be honest with everybody. And I'll put a bit of a breakdown of the skill sequencing below. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but yeah, that's basically what we're going to run with. So yeah, Jorgen's first build is going to be shields. Okay, so yeah, it's actually pretty exciting with this game, because I really like mix and matching and of skills, and I like playing a lot of off-meta stuff. I feel like things will scale a lot better, and I hope they scale a lot better. Path of Exile 1 was a bit rough around this. It didn't really allow you a lot of flexibility. There was a lot of options, yes, but most, or not most skills, but a great number of skills just did not scale very well, and it made it really frustrating to try and cook different builds. I feel like it's going to be a different situation with Path of Exile 2, potentially. Crafting's a lot easier. Getting access to mats is a lot easier. The skill accessibility is a lot easier, and the combinations and the ascendancies are a lot more lucrative, as well as the trees easier to work with, I feel, as well. Even though it's got more nodes, it feels simpler because attribute balancing is not much of an issue, and also being able to not waste mana and reserve your spirit makes it a lot easier to come up with different build variations as well. All of these things were like big challenges in Path of Exile 1, but you know, these are just some suggested ideas that I'm going to play. What I'd probably challenge you to do is sit down and play something that you enjoy playing. Like, don't just follow a build guide or a curation or something like that straight away. Just play with the skills and see what feels good. Play with the combinations. Don't overthink it. It's you know, it's a new game, and it's there for fun. Anyway, if you like this video, don't forget to like and sub to the channel. I've also got the X, there's the Patreon, there's the Twitch, there's all the things. But anyway, until next time, I will see you guys later on.